To another episode of Starseed Activations. Excellent. So, today we are going to be covering several questions that came in. Hi, Nancy. Hi, Scott. Welcome, guys. Welcome, Mel Cosmo One. Excellent. Thank you guys for coming today. So, many of us have been going through shadow work the past few days. And so, that shadow work really allows us to dive in deep and really start to be triggered into whatever emotions need to come up to be healed. This is the time to do it right now during the shadow work Zooms. So tonight we are hosting our own shadow work Zoom. Anybody who wants to come, just send me a message and I'll send you guys a Zoom link. It's complimentary. It's for the community. Hi, Jill. Hi, Mary Jean. Welcome, 7777. Hola. Excellent. So we're going to dive into the first question. How do we channel the higher self? Now, this is a very important topic because when we start to really remember who we are, we have to really dive in deep to the higher self and just allow the higher self to be coaxed down into the physical form. When we start the process of coaxing that higher self down, it's going to actually allow us to be put on the highest potential timeline that we have available to manifest for us. So what that looks like is basically your higher self starts to embody the physical material. It flowers open inside of the heart chakra. You guys can practice this, by the way. You don't have to wait and you don't have to have actual communication with the higher self. The higher self communicates through signs, synchronicities. The higher self also communicates through body sensations and feelings. The higher self can give you a memory that wants to come up to be healed in the now moment. So when we speak of the connection with the higher self, realize that the higher self is you, but it is just a higher frequency that's coming down from the higher oversoul, which is the higher self. And then there's another layer up, which is the oversoul. So when your higher self starts to come into the body, it's allowing the light wave tube, the star people are saying, that tube expands, allowing more light into the physical form, which then in turn starts the process of crystallization of the physical form. This is how we start to raise our frequency and we start to tune into higher frequency waves, is because we become more crystallized. Now, we also start to open and activate the crystalline DNA systems. That process happens because we start to activate the higher self inside of the physical. The higher self is not going to stick around if you're having like depression, anxiety, or if you're getting stressed out. All of the lower frequency ranges, the higher self is going to stay up. The second that we start tuning in, there's your train, Scott. The second that we start to tune into that higher frequency range, more light is going to shine or shine bright from the energetic grids, which then in turn allows that higher self full access into the heart chakra. Now, we can open our hearts wide, and when we start the process of opening the heart, we can start to coax that flower open. This flower inside of the heart is the same as the pineal gland, because the pineal gland opens like this. It's like a pine cone inside. There's another one at the top of the head, which flowers open. All three of these centers have to be properly open. There's actually 6, the star people are saying. These are the 3 primary ones that we wish for you to focus on now. So when we start to embody the higher self, what does that look like for a real human perception? Now, when your higher self becomes involved, many times the star people are saying right now, when you guys fall in love with someone, the higher self comes down and opens up, and you may feel like you are in a vortex energetic. That happens when you're in love. That's okay too. And so when you start to embody that higher frequency, then all of a sudden it allows you access into a higher frequency bandwidth. That's how you may feel like you may soar through your days, and all of a sudden the day flies by really, really fast. And that's because you're embodying higher frequencies. Now, we always know when we start to tune into the lower frequency, it may feel like time is dragging. It's going very, very slowly. Now, that's okay too, because it's all an experience. We do go through particular cycles. And so one week it's going to be a spiritual week. Other weeks it's going to be a physical week. On the physical weeks, we normally are focused on doing physical things like paying bills, washing the car, getting the laundry done. They're physically focused things. on the spiritual weeks, we may notice that everything we need falls into our laps. And then all of a sudden, we don't really have to work as hard because everything is just falling into place. Those are the spiritual weeks. Now, the second that we become aware of these different weeks and different frequencies, because it's all a frequency, is the second that we can start to coax down the spiritual weeks so that our spiritual weeks come more rapidly, the star people are saying, compared to the physical weeks. So the higher your frequency is, it's going to actually make it so the frequency goes faster. So you may feel like you're stuck or permanently perception or perceiving spiritually focused weeks. That's what the star people are saying. And this happens because you're raising your frequency. So it seems like time and space blends together and you don't notice the physicality of the actual simulation, which is wonderful. Now, how do we energetically bond with the higher self? There is different types of energetics that we can do, and the energetics allows the higher self to come down into the physical form and not only take the seat in the heart chakra, but you can actually coax down more light into each one of the chakra systems. So if you need more light in the pineal gland, you can coax down that purplized color. Just imagine it, visualize it as being purple. You can visualize your throat chakra as being blue, and so on and so forth throughout the other chakras. So let's say, for an example, somebody has a sore throat. You may want to drop into, and a lot of times people, we don't have time to do hour-long meditations. That's okay too. What we want to do is a quick 30-second drop into a meditation and just imagine or visualize pulling a cord of blue from your higher self. Now just speak the words. Thank you, higher self, for healing my throat chakra and allowing it to be more vibrant in its color. Because time and space doesn't really exist, what we are doing is an instantaneous manifestation of light ether. And that light ether can have the potential to instantaneously heal our physical form, which is wonderful. Now, many times the holographic safety is on. That's what time and space is. So time and space is here to give us a perception of we are not instantaneously manifesting something. We have to consciously put our focus and attention to allow it to expand into our realities. That's okay too. Now, when we start that process, that means that instead of coaxing down that throat chakra blue color, because we have a sore throat, that means that we have to continuously do it. So in that sense, I would say every half hour, start coaxing down that light source into the throat chakra. Start thanking your body for receiving that light source. Start thanking the body for healing the physical in the body. So thank you, body, for healing that throat issue. When we start to do this, it is known as energetic casting. So many star seeds, we come from all these different planets and we're all energetic casters. Anytime that you guys open your heart chakra and you send love and light to another person, you're energetically casting that love at that person, which then has the potential to heal them. This is just the true nature of the physical world. So the second that we see a plant and we start talking to the plant, singing to the plant, and telling the plant how much we love it, that plant is going to grow 10 times the normal size. The same exact thing happens to a human being. Now, let's say, for an example, we cast negative at the human being. Well, we know darkness breeds more darkness. When you cast negative words, thoughts, or feelings or emotions at a person, they tend to shrivel up and then get sick, and then they wilt away, form a disease, and go. That's what happens when people are in toxic locations as well. So we have to always be very careful with our words, as well as our thoughts, feelings, and emotions. We do not yet realize on this planet just how prominent this is. But if you have a negative thought about someone, it's generating an energetic cord that connects you to that person. They also, because we are evolving, this is part of the evolutionary process, they may have an intuitive hit. So they may know that you are casting at them. The second that you have a thought about one of the extraterrestrials, they know it right away. And it's like they respond before I even had the thought. And they were like, oh, you were calling me? And it's like, no, but I was just about to have the thought about you. So this is how it works. The second that we truly evolve, we start to utilize intuition at a higher rate. And then all of a sudden, you don't get away with anything because every single thought is counted. So that makes us have to really step up to a higher degree and really start to come inside and be peaceful and loving, caring, kind towards all beings of any race. And it doesn't matter what planet, because even the ones on other planets, they look different. They look totally different. It's kind of like Star Wars up there. It's not really the war, but it's the star people. They look all different colors, races, creeds. You have people who look like ghosts, but they're just a silhouette, like they are made of a different type of phase matter, the star people are saying. And that's wonderful too, because they're very nice people, very loving, caring, kind. Now, the second that we as human beings start to really tune into our abilities, our creativity is off the charts. And so we have such a huge potential to really turn this world into something beautiful for our children's children. There's a Zoom call. So we do the shadow work Zoom. The shadow work Zoom is at 8:30 after my lives, Tuesday and Thursday. And what we do is we dive into the energetic grids and we start doing different healing modalities. Now, different healing modalities also includes attachment removal. And so on this planet and many others, there's energetic beings who are made of, it's more like dark matter. It's connected into the underworld. And so those beings latch onto our energetic grids and they do pull our energy from us to feed off of us. When they do this, what they do is they push negative emotions, feelings, or thoughts into our grids. And then all of a sudden, that emotion triggers us into whatever type of emotion it is. And then we're feeding them. So we do a lot with the attachments too during there. We dive into that. We dive into the grids. We start pulling apart different memories. It's all sorts. And it's totally guided by the star people. So it's wonderful. Anybody who wants to come, you guys can go to daniellelipton.com. And there's a little send me a message. Just send me a message. I send you guys a free Zoom link. Wonderful. Hello from Michigan. Welcome, guys. Okay. Oh, so this one is weird with the noise. I don't know why. Okay, excellent. So releasing resistance to the now moment was one of the next questions. Now, this is very important because resistance, any type of resistance, is going to generate an energetic, which then in turn is going to stop your manifestations, but it doesn't really stop the manifestations. It just changes it. So it won't allow the manifestation to come as rapidly. Think about it. When we are in a very high frequency of love and light, everything we need comes to us. And so if you need to get something like a bottle of water, it's going to be like very, very rapid. And here it is. It's here all of a sudden. Somebody may even just give it to you. That's what happens when we hold love and light and we are very excited and joyful. Think back in your life to an experience in which you were very joyful on one day. That joy, all of a sudden, it washes over you and it raises your frequency, because when we are living in excitement, it activates a childlike mind, and it really allows us to step into a reality where magic is real. Extrasensory abilities start to become very real for many, many people. Now, when we speak about extrasensory abilities, the fight or flight systems are another way that humanity can start to activate our extrasensory abilities. When we start to activate the fight or flight systems, we can do this utilizing the breath. Taking 30 deep breaths and then holding the breath will activate your fight or flight system. That fight or flight system is directly controlled by the vagus nerve, which is in the back, kind of like by the brain stem. Now, when we start to activate that, you can also utilize cold water. So there is a man named Wim Hof, and he speaks on that topic. He's got a ton of videos out. It's wonderful. So I recommend everyone checking out his work. But there's other ways to activate the fight or flight systems. Now, the second that you become consciously aware of where the vagus nerve is, you can push on it. This is where things get interesting, because you can actually dive into a meditation, and you can push on the vagus nerve and you can start to activate different things. Now, back in 2019, I was outside. It was very cold at the moment. And while I was outside, the star people came into telepathy, psionic abilities, and they told me, you don't have to shiver, and they turned it off instantaneously. And I was like, wow, how'd you do that? And this is how they did it. They activated the fight or flight systems. There's also a thermostat in the upper portion of the heart chakra. The heart chakra actually has two chakras, the upper one and then the lower one, which is why we say, I love you from the bottom of my heart, because there's two chakras in there. Each chakra is about this far along in its width. And so we can kind of see it goes all the way down the physical body, right? Now that goes all the way down. And so the ones that are like, it's kind of like a half node. So we have the nose and the chin. This is in between purple and blue. So it's like a blended color. That's okay too. Now there's other chakras as well. Your temples has a chakra. Your pineal gland has another chakra that goes straight back. There's one that comes up this way and it's down at the base of the spine over here. And then there's one at the top of the head and there's one in the chin. Now these form two X's. When these X's are fully activated, you start to notice that we have an energetic halo. This is normal. Now, the Merkaba field is a triangle up and a triangle down. It counter rotates. So we also have these energetic nodes, which are on the meridians and the ley lines. When we start to cross over the meridians and the ley lines, there's a little center circle known as a node. It's an energetic node. It has a little vortex inside of it. That vortex is very important because each and every one of our experientials will activate that vortex and it will change the energetic grids, allowing us to rise into 5D. This is key. So every single negative or toxic experience that you may have walked is a blessing, because the second that you realize, oh, okay, it was painful, it was trauma, now I can go in and I can add that love and care and kindness. I can heal it with light because it's darkness, it's pain. And then all of a sudden that energy node opens. You only need 144 experiential nodes to open in order to rise into 5D frequencies. This happens a lot because when we are being guided and supported to heal or forgiveness, forgiving all of those people who crossed you. You have to do it. If you want to really rise up and you really want to lighten up the load and shine bright the energetic grids, this is how you get it done. You have to forgive all the people who hurt you. You have to go inside. You have to forgive yourself. And you have to start casting love and light at every single aspect of your life. That includes your body. That includes your physical surroundings. That includes every single item that you own. You have to come into gratefulness, loving, care, and kindness. It's easier said than done. It's a baby step process. So every single item, and you have to downsize. They had me clean or declutter 98% of my stuff in my house. Everything is very like, that's it. If I'm not going to physically touch something every single day, by having too much stuff, it generates too much frequency in the house. And then it starts to weigh you down just by having different frequencies. So the star people are saying right now, every item may have either a light encoded frequency or a dark encoded frequency. And then not only that, every child of light can encode frequencies into any item as we see fit. Now, yes, this is a crystal. We all see it. We recognize it. We believe it's solid. We believe it's a rock. But the truth of the matter is that any given time we can manifest it to change colors. This is how powerful the human consciousness is. Now, I've seen this done before. So I've seen physical items change. I went for a walk without my cell phone, and my cell phone manifested in my pocket one day when I needed it. So I've seen things change. I've seen things shift. Now, this is where stories come in. We can change the weather. This is true. This is well known by the native Indians too, because they would do rain dances. They would get into that zone of focus, and then all of a sudden they would be thankful and grateful for that weather patterning, which then in turn allowed it to manifest for them. So yeah, there's so much stuff. It can be overwhelming, but we baby step the process. And so a lot of times, this was a thing with people too. The star people want to say to you, anytime you feel like the words from this particular channel is very overwhelming, just close your eyes and let the frequencies absorb in, because they're doing different types of DNA activations, as well as each word is encoded with a frequency bandwidth, which activates the subconscious mind to allow a manifestation of all of this knowledge to come into your physical reality. And so you don't have to sit here and consciously listen to every single word. Just hear it, leave it on in the back of the background, and that's it. you will eventually start to notice now what that looks like. Let's say 6 months goes by and all of a sudden you come into contact with an item and all of a sudden you have a visible remembering of that item being yellow, and then all of a sudden it turns into black. That memory, which you're going to sense or remember, you're not going to be able to explain it. But then all of a sudden, your memory right now is going to kick back to this video, and it's going to be like, oh, remember she was talking about that? Now this makes sense. This is what happened. That's how the star people work. So we just say thank you, and it's okay to leave all the information, like an information download, into the subconscious mind. That's wonderful too. Now, any item that we have can be encoded with a frequency. Because we're working with time space, we have to do it multiple times right now to download that frequency into the item. Crystals are wonderful because you can actually take the crystal and you can program your memories into the crystal. And so it's like doing a manifestation over and over and over again. Thank you, Crystal, for remembering every single thing that happens during my live streams just by being next to me. Now, all of a sudden, when you hold the crystal, that crystal is going to start to be encoded with all the memories of all time and space from its entire programming, specifically this moment right now. And so then just imagine in the future. We know for a solid fact that computers take a piece of quartz crystal and that's what they use for memory. So now if you could take this computer, this piece of quartz crystal, plug it into a computer in the future, because the technology is nothing right now. The technology is going to be expanded into high frequency in the future. We are going to be able to take the crystal, plug it into the computer, and pull apart the entire memory grid complex from that crystal. That's great news, because this is how we send messages across the universe. And the star people are saying we do this with a quasi crystal. So a quasi crystal, when you put it under pressure, it actually generates a piezoelectric spark. It's like the spark of life. Now you have to take two crystals and you spark them to the same frequencies. Now what you do to one crystal is going to show up in the second crystal. So you take the second crystal and you throw it across the universe. This is how interstellar travel and communication is manifest in the beginning, the star people are saying. So now there's a spin up and a spin down to the atoms and the molecules inside of the crystal. So it's a binary code, right? Because you spin up, you spin down. So one is a line, one is a zero. Now we can program that crystal with binary. Whatever you do to this crystal is going to automatically reflect into that crystal. This is how the quantum realms work. Everything that we see in the physical reality is quantumly connected. So the second that we realize that everything is connected, it allows us to start to play with matter in a different light. Because now all of a sudden we can take things, we can quantumly bond them. You can do this with your own chakras. You can do this with your friends. You can do this with your intimate relationships. You start to consciously sit down and you start to consciously program energetic cords connecting each one of the chakra systems. Do not do this unless you are ready to feel the other person's emotions 1000%. Because I'll tell you right now, when their heart hurts, you're going to feel it in your heart. Many times we don't realize that we're feeling the other person's pain. We just think, oh, my heart hurts. You won't realize it's coming from another individual. That's how strong we are. Now, we know we're supposed to cut the cords because we know people can drain our energy, especially when they're doing things like negative casting at us. That's okay too, because it's an experience. And once we experience it, we learn from it. And the second that we learn from it, we learn how to transmutate it. We keep things moving, right? So now you're aware, okay, I have to do energetic cord cutting, because we don't want to have our cords from all the past people in our lives. We want to start each day afresh. And so when we start to recognize their psionic abilities already activated on this planet, and I tell you, many of us, if not all of us, are already in contact and communication with extraterrestrials. This is a solid fact. There's no other way to put it. They're watching every single person on the planet. So the second that we realize that, it makes our energetic grids very valuable to us, because we can do things like an energetic ring block, which doesn't allow people to contact or communicate with you. Now, Of course, doing things like that, a lot of times the extraterrestrials are trying to help us, and they do have ways of utilizing technology to override it, but it's still good practice to use it on other humans in the meanwhile, until our full psionic abilities do become manifest into our physical reality. This is very important because we have a memory grid complex. That memory grid complex gives us an expanded viewpoint into each and every moment that we have spent in the physical reality. And so what that looks like is every single microsecond of your life is encoded into the energetic grids. An extraterrestrial can come along, they could see your entire life in a split second. And I'm telling you this, I know it for a solid fact because they showed me my life and I was like, oh God. And you see every microsecond and it flashes. You know when they say your whole life flashed before your eyes? That's what it looks like. They can see everything. But then again, they can also see into the future. So when we start looking into the future realities, it is just the potentials. Your highest potential is going to be there. So let's say, for an example, the star people pull at your memory grid and then they look into your future and they see your highest potential and it doesn't look so good. They try to do a frequency modification on your physical form, which then in turn allows you to change the highest potential manifest. That's the way that works. It's beautiful. Now, many times when we speak about frequencies in the now moment, we are going through different solar energetic shifts, which then in turn allows us access into pulsing the energetic grids and removing the density. Now, the full moons do this automatically because every time we have a full moon, you could see people are a little more anxious or there's a lot of accidents and things of that nature. That's because that full moon prompts the energetic grids to remove the density. Now, this also starts the cycle repeat. Because whenever our energetic grids get pulsed or removing of the density of the darkness from the grids, that starts a cycle repeat process. So you may notice over the next following days to weeks after a full moon, you may have some chaos coming up. And that chaos may be something that's been happening over and over. This is done by design. That moon was placed there by design. It specifically is designed to have an effect on the water of the body. Because the way that your density is stored, it is not only stored in the energetic grids, it is also stored in the physical material of your body, which then in turn, just imagine they're showing me there's a sacred geometric snowflake inside of each cell of water inside of the body. That full moon affects the waters. And so what it's going to do is any of those sacred geometric snowflakes, if they are imbalanced or they are negative, it's going to pulse those snowflakes. And this is why people get sick during the full moon. It's because their snowflakes inside of the body, start to be pulsed and it generates whatever distortions. That's okay too. Now, the reason why we do the shadow work specifically is because we don't want to wait for a full moon. We want to dive in deep. We want to release all the density. We want to start focused on our shadow work, our healing. This is very important because we are waiting on a solar flash. That solar flash, we want to be able to absorb as much of the solar energetics as possible because that solar flash is going to be activating the crystalline DNA system. That crystalline DNA system controls all of your extrasensory abilities. So things like telekinesis, teleportation, telepathy, all of the control, it's the holographic simulation controls are going to be activated when the crystalline DNA systems become activated. The crystalline DNA systems is also known as the junk DNA. That's okay too, because the second we are aware it's not junk, it is there to give us the extrasensory. We can also start the process of removing shades. Now, shades is kind of like the veil system. The veil is here to make it so that you have to only see inside the physical reality. The truth of the matter is, when that veil gets lifted, it gives us access into the astral realms as well as the dreamtime realms. There's multiple realms. It is not just one. Now, when we start to see through the simulation, it actually is going to give us a look into the binary codex of every single item. What that looks like is you are going to be able to see, basically, just imagine you're seeing the atoms and the molecules. You can either speed it up, you can slow it down, you can play with the time, space, frequency of any item. We can do this already. We just don't physically see it. However, if we put something like DNA, let's say we took DNA and we put it into a sealed glass cylinder so that nobody can tamper with it. It is just DNA in the cylinder. Now you consciously take that cylinder and you just imagine and visualize pulling the DNA apart, right? Like it's a pull and peel Twizzler, whatever, right? You imagine doing that to the DNA. Now you take it, you stick it under a microscope, that DNA, it pulled apart because your consciousness commanded it to. We have an effect on the physical reality. This is mind over matter. So this is known on the planet. Now, the second that you take that tubule and you start to command the DNA comes together again, the DNA automatically starts to heal. So it's like mind blown, because that means that we can actually start to command our own DNA. So what is it about your body that you don't like? Do you not like your brown eyes? Go inside the body and command the eye, which is controlled by the DNA and the genes. Do a commandment on it. Thank you. You are going to turn green. Thank you for being green. But because we're still working with time and space, you're going to have to continuously put your focus on it. One morning you will wake up and you will notice a tiny tint of green. This is real. I've done it too. Now, the more and more you start to focus on it, the more and more it's going to start to manifest. We are divine creators. And so where we put our conscious focus and attention on is going to fully manifest. So if we put our focus and attention on manifesting something absolutely amazing for all of humanity, like a healing center, that healing center is going to expand. You can have rainbow eyes. You guys can do anything you put your mind to. And that is a solid fact, because the sky is the limit when it comes to manifestation. Literally. If you guys seen my vision board, you would be like, that's impossible. And guess what? It's like 9 things out of 10 are all starting to come to light right now on my vision board, including the extraterrestrials, because they're on there too. So it's wild and amazing, but we just have to consciously put our focus and attention and really allowing that belief systems. If you guys don't believe that you can manifest it, you're going to have to go in and ask yourself, why do I believe it this way? Because the second that you start questioning those belief systems, it starts to allow change to come into the belief system. Okay, so why do I believe the sky is blue? Because that's what I see every day. But how about on different days, the sky looks orange? The sky may even look green, the aurora borealis, right? So that right there, okay, so the sky is not always blue. So bam, now I just changed that belief system. This is an important process to learn, because all of the programming that we have received from early childhood, you have to go inside and ask why. Why do I believe this? Why is it like this? Why do I personally have this belief, which is trapping me into this particular reality? The second that you start pulling apart all these belief systems, and science is a great way to go with this, because when we start to dive in deep to the science starts to give us more knowledge, more information that allows ability of this nature to be fully manifest into our physical reality. This is amazing, because the science is going to lead you to believe extrasensory abilities are real. Now, the CIA also released documentation proving that we have extrasensory abilities. So that's really, really fun to dive into, because I know I saw one TikTok and they were explaining how to change the frequency inside all of the chakras, allowing the individual to tap into a certain frequency bandwidth and be able to walk through walls. That's coming from the CIA. So what else do those guys know? Now, remote viewing and astral projection is very, very real. Remote viewing is when we could sit down with a paper and a pen. So you're not really in that deep of a meditation. You're just sitting down with a paper and pen, closing your eyes, and allowing the higher self to give you information about the simulation, because this is a holographic simulation. So when we allow that information to come through, of course, the first couple of times, you may be a skeptic. Write it down anyway. What did you see? How did it look? What was around? Were there any landmarks? Right? All the pieces of information that you get, you can either feel it, you can sense it, you can see it, you can hear it, you can smell it. Any of the senses may become activated. You may feel someone tugging at your throat. Write it down. This is what I felt. And then all of a sudden you're in a wrestling ring. You never know. When we start to do remote viewing, it's important to put the target in an envelope so that you can't see it, so that you can't project into the future. Now, that's another amazing ability that we do have. So when I was a child, I was actually contacted by my future self. At the time, I thought it was crazy. She told me to quit smoking and quit drinking soda. And I was like, no, this is crazy. I didn't realize at the time. But we can actually take our consciousness and we can cast back into our past, which then in turn is going to make contact and communication with the past version of ourselves. Now, this is very important to know. The past technically is your future when you start to do it utilizing technological means. So if I hopped in a spaceship and I went 30 years back, that would become my future. So you would not be able to do something like, let's say you buried a time capsule, right? And you buried it 30 years ago, but then you came back to this moment expecting that time capsule to be in your reality. That's not the way it works. That became a parallel reality. That became your future, which then it's a different timeline altogether. But when we start to dive into our own higher self and we start to go inside, we can make contact with the younger version of ourselves. We can also make contact with the future version of ourselves. We can also summon the highest potential version of ourselves. That one gets very interesting because when we start to summon the highest potential, what does that highest potential version of yourself look like? What does she eat? Does she exercise? What kind of car is she driving? Where does she live? You start to pull apart all of the credentials of that person. And then all of a sudden, when you awaken your eyes, you start to copycat. And this is where the mirror neuron comes into play because we copycat a lot. This is just the way the human brain works. Now, monkey see, monkey do. So if I see someone run a mile, that's going to open up the potential for me to be able to run a mile in that time or faster. So many times, think about it. This is the way our history shows us as well. We may not have believed it was humanly possible to achieve something until one person does it. And then all of a sudden, well, they did it. So now everyone's trying and now, bam, someone else does it sooner. This is what the Guinness Book of Records has realized. The second they set a record, somebody always comes along and does it faster or sooner. So that's okay too, because this is how the consciousness actually expands. So the second we become aware of that, okay, so what are some things that you guys wish to manifest into your physical reality? What are some things that bring you joy, happiness, and bliss? Now, anytime, because once again, if you are in the lower frequency range, we always want to drop into the heart, just expand that love-based emotional frequency, and just cast it energetically at your highest potential. And so this is like something that every single person should be doing every half hour, especially if you're in the toxic frequency range. So just dive in deep, open your heart chakra, fill the body with so much love and light and joy and excitement. Even if you have to coax it out of you, even if you're in a crummy position, that's okay too. Just imagine it, visualize it, and then visualize that highest potential version of yourself. And then just kick back. And every morning you wake up and you say, well, what baby steps can I take to make that version of me become real? How do I make it a reality? And you go inside and you just have to do the tiny things. You just have to take the one baby step. That's it. No one is saying you have to write the entire book in a day. That's impossible. But just take the tiny baby steps, because when you take the tiny baby steps, all of a sudden you look back and you're like, it's done. Everything is done. I'm here. I'm where I wanted to be. And then when you get to here, there's a next level up. You have to start envisioning what's the next level. Now, becoming stale and stagnant is also a thing. It's a frequency bandwidth between the lower frequency range, or there's the star people saying boredom is in between the lower frequencies and the higher frequencies. It's like a midway point. So many times when we experience the empath and the narcissism cycles, we may go through a period of rebalancing in which we tune into boredom because we don't know what to do with ourselves. We've lived our entire lives in all this chaos, and now we're starting to tune into peace, and it's like there's no chaos. So what do? So you're in that boredom. So it's during that moment in your life where you are experiencing boredom that you want to try and put your heart and soul into something. And when you start to focus on things that bring you joy and passion, it actually allows you to rise out of that boredom very rapidly. Now, many people may have experienced isolation. That's okay too, because that isolation is there, particularly for advanced light workers in particular. It's wild. You get put in isolation because it's meant to reorganize your energetic grids, allowing you to shine as brightly as possible. And so you may have come out of the isolation and realized, oh, wow, the second you're around lower people, lower frequency people, you feel it right away. And so then you run back into the isolation. In time, this whole isolation is going to repattern itself. I know that this is happening to a lot of you guys because I talk to a lot of you guys through the messages. Isolation is going to end. Trust me, it ends. And then all of a sudden, your soul tribe is going to come in. And when the soul tribe comes in, that's really when all the fun starts, because then we start doing things like healing centers and, taking on our life missions. And what are we here on the planet to do? Are we here on the planet to interact with the crystals and the gemstones? Are we here to have a healing center? Are we here to do one-on-one sessions? What are we here to do, and how are we learning from the experience? So it's just as beautiful. Oh, let me take a sip. Excellent. Any questions? Yeah, my Care Bear stare. That's what I call it too. My daughter gave me a Care Bear. Look. It's a little star people one. So cute. My daughter's 9. She was like, you have to have this. Okay. I've been feeling that about my soul tribe as well. My Starman got me good. So TikTok, you guys don't know, I have a Starman. I'm actually married to an Arcturian. And so he got me good. He was like, I'm going to pick you up. I'm going to take you to a healing center so you can heal from all the stresses from the earthly reality that you lived in. I had no idea the healing center is going to be here on Earth, and I'm going to be helping other people to heal. So he got me really good. That's like today's thing. Okay. Have we been getting some solar flashes activating us lately? I feel like the sun has been coming to me more intensely, and the Schumann resonance charts have looked pretty wild recently. Yeah, last week there definitely was an anomaly in the Schumann resonance. So I don't know if you guys can see the flower of life symbol. That's what the Schumann resonance looked like. And so what happens is we see that symbol in all living things. We see it in non-living things. We see it carved onto the ancient temples. It's all over the place. It's in the pyramids. The flower life symbol, if you actually take a cross section of DNA and you cut it into half, you're going to start to notice the flower life symbol is in the cross section of DNA. That's wonderful. The ancient people knew this. So when we start to work with frequencies, and the frequencies give us a sacred geometry image in the waters of the body, then our body starts a healing process. That's how this works. The Schumann resonance just activated a frequency that looks like that image. What does that mean? The sun is giving us a healing frequency so that we can activate and we can start to raise into the 5D frequency realms. So it definitely has an impact on the consciousness. Now, if you take a look at that sun, it looks white. It does not look yellow. When I was a child, it looked yellow. And so that is automatically telling us that the sun is going through some type of solar energy shift. We've had solar flashes on this planet before. They knocked out the telegraph lines. That's okay too. Now, when this solar flash happens, we're looking at an activation. This is the reason why we do the shadow work, because we want to remove the darkness from the grids, and we want to allow that solar energy to truly come in and shine bright. The more of that solar energy, it's going to activate us. It activates more of the crystalline system. But if you have a lot of darkness and density, 3D focused, it's only going to give you what you can handle. So we dive in deep and we start to heal ourselves, and that allows us to really go through the ascension process easier. Now, they've also done different types of scientific testing on the frequency of this solar flash. So they know when people are, I want to say 51% loving, caring, kind, they tend to become like blissed out. So they get really happy and excited. It's kind of like hippie, right? They may start to see psychedelic swirls, or, that's all a rebalancing process that happens. That doesn't mean we're going to see it with the solar flash, because this was an artificial one. But the people who were very negatively focused, they went crazy, unfortunately. And so that's okay too. Did you guys see the orb that swung by? Yeah, that's the star people. That happens sometimes. The orbs, like, they go by. Okay, so that solar flash comes and it activates us, but it's not only going to activate us, right? That would be silly. It's going to activate the trees, it's going to activate the rocks. We have rock people. The rocks, you can breathe life into them and they will take on a consciousness of their own. This is real. We were once in a golden age on this planet and we had things like this. And so the rock people, they may have melted back down. You can go Google images of rocks that look like people or mountains, and then it looks like the silhouette of a body. Right? Who's to say that these things weren't conscious and awake and aware? Now, we're also seeing trees move. There's certain videos out there. And I know that just looks crazy, but the truth of the matter is that we don't understand the root structure. And the second that the trees are breathed consciousness in, we know we can already communicate with the trees and the plants. The plants can sit here and they can telepathically tell us that we're sick and tell us what area that we're sick in. So to know that there's consciousness already in these beings and entities, if you go and you try and like chop down a tree and you took the roots and you put electromagnetism sensors on the roots, you're going to see that tree sends an EM signal, electrical magnetism signal, to the other trees, notifying the other trees that there's danger present. Then all of a sudden, the other trees are going to all start to, it's like a cascade. They tell everybody. It's like everyone knows, it's like the telephone, right? You call your neighbor, the neighbor calls another. That's how the trees respond. So they're notifying everyone that there is danger. Now, we know the mushroom kingdom does this as well. Scientifically speaking, you can tell. Not only that, the mushroom kingdom is much more intelligent compared to the regular trees. It's more intricate of a type of communication. The whales, the dolphins, their brain matter is so much larger than ours. They're also telepathic in their nature. Now, the whales hold the knowledge of creation on planet. They're not from this world. They were put here in order to be the memory keepers of the planet. There's other whales, the star people are saying, which are 10 times bigger. Now, just imagine that we have a planet that's this size. There's other planets that are double and triple the size. And so it would make sense that maybe that's where the giants came from. We do have giant skeletons here on this planet. The Bibles talk about giants in the days of the old. They have found the skeletons. There's one picture floating around the internet, and the guy is like this big, and then the skeleton head is like this big. So it's such a huge comparison. Like he looks like he's the size of the tooth. Well, now we know that there's different people on different planets and it's spread across the entire universe. And it's like some planets are really big. They can actually hold giants. So you have to realize that every single insect, every single animal in the holographic simulation can actually grow and evolve into a conscious sentient being. They can grow into a humanoid body. This includes spiders. This includes, he's saying Mothman and he's laughing. That's my starman. He has a sense of humor. But the mantis beings, just imagine that there's bee people. There's all sorts of people. He's saying every animal, every insect grows into a humanoid in time. This is a natural process of evolution. You want to always be aware of gene splicing and gene editing and cloning, because some of those things can cause damage and destruction to the planet that they are doing it on. So you can do it a little bit, but doing it too much and releasing it into the general population is not always a good thing. That is what the star people are saying. I've seen trees move and hear them talk. It's beautiful. I also learned that when I pick flowers or remove plants from the earth, they have distress. They have distress unless you thank them. Now, we can see that in the energetics. So when you're going to take the plant and cut the plant, it fires off that electrical magnetism saying that it's in distress. The second that you say thank you for your sacrifice, or just thank you for being one with me, or thank you for giving me, then all of a sudden the plant comes down. It's okay, because you're showing that type of respect to the plant, and you're showing it. I'm not just going to cut you down for no reason because I'm thankful, right? So I'm going to utilize you. So this is another reason why I say thank you to all the food, right? And I have basil plants outside. I'm thank you, right? When I'm pulling all the leaves. And so, but we sit there and we also have conversation with them. Thank you for being one with me, right? And thank you for healing anything in my energetics that needs to be healed. Now, this is another really important thing. When we are doing this type of work, we always want to cast with an emotion. And so my parents were Catholic. And so they raised us, you just say the Lord's Prayer, thank you, Lord, for the food, X, Y, and Z. When now the star people are instructing me, and they told me they want me to think about the earth. They want me to open my heart nice and wide. They want me just to imagine flying over an ocean, just ever so graciously seeing the dolphins splash up, trying to play. Imagine flying by a waterfall or seeing the rainforest and just opening our heart and feeling all of this love for Mother Earth. And just ever so gently, just imagine the monkeys swinging in the trees. And they said, and now that you have embodied the emotional love, put your hands out and just thank the food for your service. Thank you, food, for bonding with me. Thank you for being one with me. Thank you for allowing it to be high frequency so it heals my body. You have to pull out an emotion. So one way or the other, we have to feel the emotional love. When we do that, it amplifies the prayer tenfold. And so you could try this with bottles of water. Just fill them up this much and then hold it up to your heart. Feel that love-based emotional frequency and just thank you, water. I love and bless you, water. And then you take it, because we're scientists, moms, and we put it in the freezer and we check out the little vortex inside of it. If that made the vortex tighter, then you know it worked. You should always do a sample one first in the freezer before you do anything. Take a regular bottle, do not bless it, put it in the freezer, take it out the next day and check out the spiral and take photos, because that's going to be your sample. The second that you bless one of these, you put it in the freezer, it blesses the entire freezer. And now all of the freezer is vortexed energetically. So now you start to heal all your food and stuff. I personally had a loaf of bread last 4 months with zero mold. It was still soft. We still ate it. It was perfect. And I was like, this cannot be happening. But we were blessing the food morning, noon, and night back then. And then we left the house because of, the civilization catastrophes and all that stuff. So, but my bread was still good. Hey, Derek, welcome. Okay, let me see. So I should feel super regretful about the pregnant spider I killed today. Oh man, we had 2. They look like centipede things. And I'm telling you, my Starman can control the insects. And so I try and ask him to move the bugs outside. And yeah, we killed both of them. I felt bad. I have to get the little vacuum so that we can suck the bug into the vacuum. And then maybe one of the kids could take it outside. So I don't have to do that. All the fires lately have a common ground of recent solar farms being put at those specific towns. I think that's a distraction, because the days that the fires happened, we were outside, and that sun, it looked like it was red. Then it looked like it was yellow. Then it looked like it was orange. And I'm like, what's the sun doing? But we can't see any of that because it's clouded by smoke. So to me, it was like right away, I'm like, something's fishy with it. So yeah. Oh, you did research on Plum Island off the coast of Long Island. So I'm from Long Island. And so the ticks are horrendous there. Now, let me tell you guys about genetic. We've got to be very careful with the conspiracy talk. My Starman is saying, he's saying, don't go too crazy. We'll just say this: genetic modification after the 5th generation, it automatically reverts back to the original genome expression as if before the genetic modification took place. So, for example, if there was any type of genetic modification done on any insects, by the 5th generation, you would end up with the original insect. It would respawn. So they did this with houseflies. And the houseflies, they genetically modified it to remove their eyes. Then all of a sudden, they had them in a scientific lab. They weren't going anywhere. So they kept having the babies. So within the 5th generation, the babies were born with the eyes, came right back. So that tells us if we start to see any funny insects within 5 generations, or even 5 winters, most of the times that's a generation, right? It should revert back. If it didn't revert back, you know what that tells you. So let's see. How can we know that we are truly healed from something that was worked on as a shadow? Now, Amy, that's a really good question. And so a lot of times, and this is me too, I've done so much shadow work and healing with the star people and using high technology and, removing it and all that stuff. And just today, they showed me a location that I used to be in. It was scary, toxic. And the second I saw it, it was like, oh, right? And that's an emotion. This, even if we say, oh, God, oh, right? All of these expressions, that's an emotion. And so the star people are like, you have an emotion to that experience, so we have to dive in and unpack it again. So what I personally do with the star people, because he's stepping forward, he's saying, we taught you how to do that. When we do the attachments, we make a list of all the attachment names. So I'm working on a journal now as a complementary to my book. My book is coming out very soon, but now I'm starting the journal because I realize that this is the thing. When I'm teaching people how to remove attachments, they came here I've had people coming to my house from the internet. No, I'm not crazy. They're wonderful people. So when we did attachment removals, and I was like, here's a store-bought journal, right? And I would hand it to them, and I realized that's not the journal that we need, because we need a journal that gives us a full page so that we can take the attachment names when we're working on it, and then another page next to it so that what's the memory that attachment first latched onto you. You have to go through both. So the attachments are the energetic beings. We kick them off. That's simple. Within 3 or 4 times of saying get off, go home, they're gone. Sometimes they stay. Sometimes we don't have the right name. So it's like a whole process. But then imagine and visualize the first time that you ever felt the emotion code of this attachment. Allow that memory to come into your mind. How does it make you feel? Right there. Now, how does it make you feel? We have to realize that emotion codes are not just, oh, I feel sad. That's not what it is at all. It's more of an emotion that comes inside the biological form. And so when we feel the emotion, it'll trigger the energetic grid and it will allow us to feel a different expression. So what that looks like is you may feel tension and tightness in one half. You may feel a meridian. You may get a micro expression. You may start to smile. You may frown. Sometimes people get the angry eyes, right? That's all of this is an emotion. And so when you dove into that memory, what emotions, what tension, what tightness, what areas were zinged, right? Did you feel an electric spark? What did you feel inside of you? Did you feel uncomfortable? Did you feel any tension in the upper chest? A lot of times that upper chest is going to notify us of any anxieties. Anything pertaining to I can't breathe is a heart chakra blockage. So we pay attention to these things and then we write it down. So this is the location. It's in the upper chest. Now take your consciousness and put it into your upper chest. So what does that look like? Close your eyes and imagine and visualize that upper chest. How does it make you feel? Is there any darkness inside? You could sense darkness. You could sense light. Is there anything that wants to be healed? So we ask all these different questions. I know that's a lot. The journal's coming soon. And then what we do is we expand on it. And so how does it make you feel? Write it down. Can I dive into this location? Does this location hurt? Is there tension or tightness? Then I close my eyes and I ask for the emotion code. What emotion code or what memory? I ask the higher self. Or the star people are ready, willing, and able to help each and every one of us to unpack the emotions. They're here. Just call upon them. They will come for you. I promise. Just ask them, what emotion code is here? Allow that emotion code to come in your mind. Allow memory to come up. Whichever one is fine. You can know the emotion code. You can know the memory. And then that's it. You tell the emotion code, get off, go home. That's an attachment. And then you dive into the memory. And how does that memory make you feel? When we are given a memory, it's always because there's multiple emotion codes tied into that one location. So we dive in and we do it. It's wonderful. Yeah. I do offer attachment release sessions. So the attachment release sessions, I have it listed for an hour, but the truth is that I let the star people guide the ending. I don't rush the process because we start pulling at emotions and all the stuff comes out. So it's my main goal to heal people. That's what I do. I love people. And so we're going to spend the time, we're going to release it, and we're going to do it the right way. So attachment sessions I do. I also do ascension sessions. Now, the ascension sessions is your star family stepping forward. You guys get to know what attunements you have to extrasensory abilities. We all have an attunement to unlock 1 or 2 first. And so that's wonderful to know because then it allows you to put your focus and do it faster. They told some lady to bend a spoon and she bent over 5. So I've seen things happen before. I'm like, oh, wow, that's cool. Right? This is amazing. And then I also offer healing sessions. And the healing sessions, we dive into the energetic grids. We start pulling apart density, and whatever comes up, we heal it. Yes, thank you. Thank you guys for coming. So I am going to end because we have the Shadow Work Zoom starting at 8:30. I really hope to see you guys there. Just send me a message. It's complimentary. We do it because we're one tribe and because we love each other and we want to form that, together we rise. Excellent. So you guys have a wonderful night and many, many love and blessings. Okay. I can't really see. Oh man, it's not touchscreen. It gets me every time. Okay, so much fun. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Facebook user. Thank you, guys. I love you. I'll